Hello, MS warriors and people of the world. My name is Corinne. I go by chronically Rin on Instagram. I want to tell my MS story. And it goes back all the way to about July or August of 2016. Let me get comfortable. So I want to say thank you for being patient because this is a long, long story. So get comfortable, get smushed down in your seat, get your water, get your something, and get comfortable because it's a long story. In August or July of 2016, my right arm, this guy, became slow. I don't know any other way to say it. It was slow. If I put my arms up and let them fall, that my right arm would fall a lot slower than my left arm. So that's how I decided it was. It was slow. And I told my mom, I told my husband, I said, my arm is slow. And they said, what? What do you mean your arm is slow? I said, it's slow. And I was knocking things over. I was a waitress. So when I was working, I constantly knocked shit over and knock things over, and at 2 times I got my hand not stuck, but like I was working at Outback, and they have one of those really big conveyor belts toasters that feed the bread in and that turns over and then falls down. So when I was going to get my bread, I would or pull my bread in, I would burn my hand because it would hit the top of the toaster. So I didn't really think much of it. And I was getting married in September of 2016. And I didn't want to be that way when I got married. So I went to the chiropractor. I thought I must have a pinched nerve somewhere in my back or my something that is making my arm slow. So I went to a chiropractor. I told her what was wrong. And she says, it's a good thing you're here. Let's see what we can do. She aligned me and cracked my back, and it was better. I could move my arm at the same speed as my left arm. So I thought, all right, this is awesome. I'm better. Fast forward to after I got married. It's now November 2016. I got up for work that day. I did the dishes. I sat down to watch TV before my shift. And when I stood back up, my leg wouldn't work right. I couldn't lift it. I couldn't move it the same as my right leg or left leg. My right leg would not move. So I called my husband and I called my mom. My mom says, rub it. and hopefully it comes back and you go to work tonight. My mom is really into working, and you know, your body is your tool, your instrument, and you have to keep it healthy to keep it working. And she says, go to the chiropractor. And I said, the chiropractor is closed today. So my husband came home and says, we have to go to the hospital. I said, no, we just got married and I'm a slacker, and I wasn't yet under my husband's insurance, and I wasn't sure if I was still covered under my father's insurance. So I said, no, I can't go to the hospital. I don't have insurance. And then, so I'm looking through my phone for like fast, quick, easy insurance that I could get before I go to the hospital. And all of a sudden, my right arm got stuck, like right here on my chest, and I couldn't move it at all. I would move it away from my chest and it would snap back. And I said to my husband, it's time to go to the hospital. So we went in, and lo and behold, I was still covered under my father, thank God. And my husband had got me a wheelchair when we got to the hospital. And I started to lose track of time when I was there. So all of a sudden, I was in triage. And I remember the lady saying, are you always in this wheelchair? And I thought that was ridiculous. No, I'm not. I'm a normal girl. I am a waitress. I run around, and I'm very, very, very active. So the next thing I knew, I was on a gurney in the hospital, about to go into an MRI. Sorry, my cat. Hi. So I'm on the MRI gurney, and the lady that was putting me in the MRI says, how tall are you? And I said, I'm and I could not get the words out of my mouth. Like, in my head, I'm thinking, I'm 4'11". I'm 4'11". I know, I'm really short. And the ladies look at me like, hello, how tall are you? And I'm like, I'm and she says, all right, we'll guess. Like, put her in there. So I went through the MRI. I don't remember anything. And then after the MRI, I was in the hospital, and I was talking to my husband, and I couldn't quite finish any of my sentences. I would say one thing, and then I would look at my husband like, almost like, all right, you know the rest, tell it, because I can't. The next day, well, actually, so that will all happen on Friday. On Sunday is the next thing I remember, that I couldn't talk. I was in a new hospital, and I couldn't speak. The only word that would come out of my mouth was woo. So I would think, where am I? What's happening? What's going on? and all that would come out of my mouth was woo, woo, woo. So the doctor had given me multiple MRIs, and they saw lesions on my brain. And in the Milford Hospital, where I was originally, they told me that I had MS. And I didn't believe it. I kept telling them, no, 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 I don't, no, I don't. And they wanted to do a spinal tap. So I did that, and they saw in the spinal tap had traces of a virus. And I told them, well, my husband and my mom, who was there at that point, told them, well, she had like a little bug maybe a week ago, but she's fine now. She's almost healthy. She like doesn't have a cold anymore. She fought it off. And because of that virus that came up on the spinal tap, the doctor diagnosed me with ADEM. ADEM is an acronym for acute demyelinating encephalitis. ADEM. Meningitis. I don't know. I forget. So I was diagnosed with ADEM, and ADEM is like 1 in a billion people get it. So the doctors don't really know what causes it or how to get rid of it other than steroids. They have had success with steroids. So they tell me I have ADEM, and they tell me this is the only time that this will occur, and you'll get better, and you'll be fine, and this will never happen again. And I'm saying, cool. I never knew what MS was, and I didn't know that MS could happen again and again and again. So I just thought, okay, now I have ADEM, and this will never happen again. And my family was like, oh, thank God, it'll never happen again. It's not MS. It's gonna go away. She's gonna get better. And my mom's in the hospital, like I'm barely conscious. I can barely even keep my eyes open. I can barely even understand what's going on or what she's saying. And she's like, you can still have kids. You can still have a family, and your life is not over. And I'm like, what? I can't move anything at all on my right side. And you're talking to me about kids? Like, what? And my dad was like, ugh, talking about my marriage, like my thank you cards. And it was a lot. And I'm like, I can't think about thank you cards, writing thank you cards right now. I can't move the right side of my body. And every day the doctors will come in and say, smile, stick out your tongue, say this sentence, like whatever. And I would smile, and they would say, oh, your smile is getting better. And I thought, what's wrong with my smile? What I didn't realize is even my face was paralyzed. And if you notice, my right side of my face doesn't have a lot of movement. Like if I squint, this is me squinting. That's it. I can't move I can blink, but I can't like really squint or like if you I'm squinting. I'm squinting. So so I was in the hospital from November 18th or 19th until after Thanksgiving. The holiday kept me there, and I went to Spalding. While I was at Spalding, every day I was having really bad headaches, and then I started throwing up like really bad. Like I would wake up and throw up like the same breath. Like it was awful. It got to the point where the people would the staff at Spalding were sitting outside the door listening for me to like wake up and throw up and like be prepared to give me a bucket, you know? So my headaches reached a 10 on the scale. And in the beginning, they would say, from 1 to 10, how bad is your headache? Now, I can't speak at all. I had to learn how to talk again from the syllable level, like ba, ma, da, and I couldn't speak. And he says 1 through 10, and now I couldn't move my hands. My hand was completely paralyzed, and he's saying 1 through 10. And I'm looking at him like, what? And it's one of the nurses says, well, 1 through 5. So I said 3, thinking if it's 1 through 5, it's a 3. If it's 1 through 10, it's a 7. So they didn't know that, and I didn't really communicate that, I guess, to them. So they would just give me ibuprofen, and my headache would go away, and we wouldn't think about it anymore. But then my headaches reached a 10. Like, I was doing this, like, it's a 10, it's a 10, it's a 10. And they immediately got me back to Brigham Women's in Boston. So, at Brigham Women's, and they give me another MRI and a CT scan, and my brain is like swelling up really bad, and I was in the ICU for a while, and they gave me more steroids and IVIG and monitored me for days. And every day the nurse would come in and say, move your leg, move your arm, say this sentence. And every time I couldn't. I didn't have any motion in my arm or leg for weeks, months. And finally, but one of the days, I was able to speak. He said, the doctor says, say this, today is a sunny day, and I was able to say it. And my husband called. He was at work, and normally I would answer and just stay silent, like, or say and that day he called, like, he was gonna say, like, I'm on my way, I'll be there soon. And I said, hello? And then he said, whoa, you're talking? I said, yeah, I'm saying a lot today. And that was amazing. That was Christmas. It was a Christmas miracle, my whole family said. And So from November 18th or 19th until December 25th, I couldn't talk at all. I could say like mom or hi. The hardest word was yes. And that was so frustrating. Um, so another thing was frustrating was I couldn't nod. I would shake my head. So everything, it like the doctors come in and say, "Hello, hi, Corinne, do you remember me?" And I would say, and my husband said, "Wait a minute, I think she says yes, but she can't actually say yes." So I had to use like a thumbs up or thumbs down option because my head wouldn't move the way I wanted to move. So it was so frustrating to not be able to speak. And so I got I was in the hospital again. Um I was in the ICU for a while. And when I was at Spalding, sorry, I have to go on. Um suppressed it. Yeah, good. When I was at Spalding, the doctors kept saying like she's not well enough to go straight home after this. She has to go to a step down facility to be more cared for more. And I did not want to go to a step down facility. I was sick of being in the hospital, sick of being in a place where I was constantly being watched and looked after, and like it was frustrating. I was 25 years old, and the last thing I wanted was someone hovering over me, um, like watching my every move, making sure I didn't fall on the floor. And so I didn't want to go to a step down facility, especially because it wouldn't just be another Spalding. A Spalding was great. I had my own room. I could wear my own clothes. I like eventually was independent, but I knew that a step down facility will be a nursing home or somewhere where I wouldn't be comfortable. So when I went back to the hospital and spent like, some more time there, um, I had to spend Christmas in the hospital, and I got back shortly afterwards. It was like um, December 27th, I think. I got back to Spalding, and I was so like I wasn't happy to be there, but I was so happy to be out of the hospital that I kept saying, "Happy to be here, happy to be back, and see my friends and the nurses and the." I think they loved me because I didn't complain. I know, yeah, like I didn't yell at them like my neighbor did. My neighbor would yell, and he was so mean in the Spalding. They actually had to have like a nurse in the room for him to like be. I don't know. He was such a jerk. And I know I was on the brain injury floor, and brain injuries can make you say things that you want to say, and can make you do things that you don't want to do. And um so I so wanted to like go into that his room and say, um it's gonna be okay, it's gonna work out, like don't be so mean. And one time I hit my call button and said, "Help him," and the nurse didn't understand me because I couldn't really speak. And he's like, "What?" I said, "Help him, help him. He's he's screaming," and he said that he had gone in there earlier, and he said, he told me to get out. He used some explicit language and told me to get out. I was like, oh man. So, anyway, at Spalding, I had great physical therapy, great speech therapy, and great occupational therapy. Shout out to my therapists. I love them and they help me so much. The first day I was at Spalding, I'm sorry if this story's kind of all over the place, but the first day I was at Spalding, my right side was completely paralyzed, and I went to the little gym on the floor, and my occupational therapist said, "We're gonna strap your arm into this like arm skate and have you move your arm side to side." I thought, I can't do it. I'm not gonna be able to do it. That's not gonna happen. Nothing's gonna happen. I can't feel my arm. So she put my arm in the arm skate, and to my complete shock, my arm moved. And it was like, my mind is doing this. Like, I'm doing this with my mind. I'm a telekinesis. I can move things with my mind. But that's how your body works. So I couldn't feel it, but it was moving. It was crazy. So I relapsed at the hospital in Spalding, and I got readmitted to Spalding back from the hospital. And I thought that, because I'd been at Spalding for 3 weeks, and I thought that I would finish on my last week and go to the step down facility, and I was really upset. But because I left and come back, it was a new visit, so I got 4 more weeks, and I was so happy, and I got a lot better. By the end of my 4 weeks, I could transfer myself into the wheelchair from my bed and get myself to the bathroom, or get myself into the chair and kind of do laps around the floor, just like spend get myself away from the TV and do things like that. So that was fine. That was great. I had like independence, and that was so important to me, because they would say, "I know you want to be independent." I'm like, yeah, I'm 25 years old and I haven't had like this much like supervision. Sorry, my brain is like telling me stop talking. Go to sleep. Um, I haven't had this much supervision in years. So to be like having to call people or ask people to take me to the bathroom was so frustrating. So when I left Spalding, um, I was pretty independent. When I didn't get to go home to my husband because we were renting a place that was um, a 3-story walk up. So my family and my husband were scared about letting me be alone in the apartment in case there was a fire or I had to get down the stairs. So I had to go to my mom's house where my stepdad is retired and my mom was there, my dad, my stepmom, my sister, like my whole family would be there to be able to look after me. So, um, sorry, my brain just like turned off. Um, when I first got my mom's house, it was really frustrating because I again had to be super supervised. Like they were every time I had to go to the bathroom, I would have to tell them, and they would watch me and make sure I didn't fall and make sure that I got to the bathroom okay. So it was really frustrating to like not have my independence that I had even in Spalding. But in Spalding, I had a wheelchair, and when I was home, I had to just walk. So, I mean, I understood why it was necessary, but I was frustrated. So I was on the prednisone taper, and if anyone out there has been on prednisone for a long time, they'll know that prednisone makes you gain weight, a lot of weight. And I'm a small girl. Like I said, I'm 4'11", and when I got to Spalding, they weighed me and I was 117. And I thought that was low because um, I had lost muscle mass and things from being paralyzed. Um, uh, my muscles and my arms and my leg were atrophied. So 117 was low for me. But then I reached about 140 something by the time I got off my prednisone, which was scary for me because I'm not that big of a person. So I finally was able to go back up to Massachusetts where me and my husband were living in that 3-story walk up. And I finished the prednisone pretty much like 2 days after I got home. And on the third day, I um, I relapsed, and I didn't know it, but it was bad. I kept falling, and I fell on the vacuum, and it was awful. I have a huge scar from it, and I called my husband. I said, something's wrong. I can't stay on my feet. I've fallen down 3 or 4 times today, and I just don't feel comfortable enough to even move right now. So, I'm sorry, my brain. So he says, what do you want to do? I said, I have to go back to the hospital. So we went back to the hospital. It was awful. I should have made me first because we were there forever. And I got readmitted. And while I was there, I couldn't walk. I think I still had my, like, I could move my arm, like, above my head, but it was weak. And sorry, I'm so tired. All over here, everything from my nose down became paralyzed, and I couldn't open my mouth. And my husband would say, open your mouth, and I would go, am I doing it? Am I doing it? And they said, open your mouth more. Am I doing it? And they were so frustrated at me, but I was frustrated too, because I was trying so hard to open my mouth and I couldn't do it. So they had to administer a feeding tube. And at first I was like, all right, well, let's get it over with. And my husband, thank God, he says, well, how is she gonna close her mouth if there's a tube in the way? And he said, the doctor says, oh, we're gonna go through her nose. And I said, no. And he grabbed me and shoved the tube up my nose and down my throat, and then I had a feeding tube. It was awful. And the doctor says that I had to sleep at a 30-degree angle all night, every night, because the feeding tube would, like, I don't know, move, I guess. So, and by the time, like, I finally got better to the point where I could open my mouth and talk and, like, do things, and I was in Spalding, and I still had the feeding tube. But at that point, even if I could open my mouth, I couldn't swallow properly. So when I would drink liquids, they would go straight into my lungs. And they were afraid that if I ate, it would go into my lungs. And that's not good. That's called aspiration. So, and I could get pneumonia. And I couldn't feel it. I would just drink them. Alright, that's good. It felt fine. It went down the right tube. I didn't cough. It's not hurting me, but it wasn't good. It was going in my lungs. So I had to have thickened liquids, and they were awful. And one day, the feeding tube fell out, and It's actually a really funny story. The feeding tube fell into the toilet. It fell, and I said, "Oh my gosh, what was that?" I looked down. I'm like, "That's a tube. My feeding tube fell out." And I'm like, "Don't put it back in." And they said, "Well, you're starting to get a lot better. We won't put it back in, and you're gonna start eating solids." So I was able to eat like diced up food that was like really, really fine chopped. And that was the thing. That was a mess. I hated that. But I'm exhausted. This story is so long, and it's gonna be longer. And I've wanted many little tiny stories that are throughout it, like the time um, one of the nurses stepped on my foot and told me to walk. I was just like, go ahead, go ahead. I'm like, you're on my foot. And I couldn't feel it at all. So I'm not upset because she was a big woman and she was standing all of her weight on my foot. Thank God I didn't feel it. And um so there'll be little micro stories here and there that I'll upload and tell you about. But right now I'm exhausted and this video is really long, and yeah. Um so I do want to say that MS is a crazy, crazy disease, and I didn't even get diagnosed with MS until I relapsed the second time and got readmitted to the hospital the third time. So I went, in the hospital, and then I went to Spalding, and then went to the hospital, and then went home, and then went to my house. Oh, I went from the hospital to Spalding, then Spalding to the hospital, then the hospital back at Spalding, and then my mom's house, and then home, and then back to the hospital. That's when I was diagnosed with MS. So I hope that you can follow this story, because I really can't edit it because I'm so tired. Yeah. I'm just so tired. I'm exhausted. I have no energy at all. This is my cat Max. He's camera shy, I guess. Alright, I love all my MS warriors, and I'm so thankful for them. I have such a great support system, and I hope this inspires someone to say their story. And I hope that, I don't know, I hope this is like inspiration, and like MS is different for everyone. And the main thing that I was like, when I was in Spalding, they gave me a number for someone that had MS and told me to call them and for her to let me know that it's gonna be okay. but I didn't want to because I knew that MS is different for everyone and that no one would have the same experience that I did. But at this point, I want to be that person that says, like, you're gonna be okay, you're gonna make it through this, and it's gonna be hard. And MS is a tricky, unpredictable disease, and but if you keep your head up and you keep thinking, I'm gonna get through this, and nothing is, everything will get better. And I'm rambling, and I'm sorry. Um, so, again, my name is Corinne. I go by Chronically Rin on Instagram. So, come check out my progress and see how I'm doing on Instagram. Chronically Rin.